All right, we're live. A little bit on the later side today, and I may sound like a broken record, but my apologies. Uh, Things just got kind of spun up in the old personal life, as they say. Do they say that? Really? I don't know if they do or not, but I'm going to say it. How is everybody? Are we feeling the energies of the eclipse yet? I am. And I'm going to be here for the next hour and a half, maybe two. And we're going to get into it. We're going to get into everything by sign, where the eclipse is taking place, and your questions. Now, I am going to be doing a locals eclipse chat tomorrow. So whatever you don't get to interact with here, tomorrow on locals, you'll be able to do a lot more just in terms of one-on-one stuff and ask me personal questions. And we'll do some of that here, but it won't be that in depth. Tomorrow we'll do like a 2-hour banger over on locals. You ever put something in a drink, like a powder or something, and you think, man, this is going to taste really good? And you start drinking it, and you go, I'm not so sure about this. That's kind of where I am with this. And I put some electrolyte stuff in there. It's okay. Somewhere between salty and sour with a little sweet, but I know it's good for me. That's what I'm telling myself. Anyway, how is everybody? It is a crazy fucking time out there. A crazy time. And we're just getting cooking. I mean, if you look at everything that's happened, again, since the flood in Kerrville to what we would call we're going to call it a sacrifice. I am now fully on board with the idea that Charlie Kirk is dead. And I'm putting away the whole squib fake. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not a conspiracy. There is. I'm almost 100% positive that the guy with the palm gun is the killer. If you haven't seen the palm gun video, I showed it yesterday over on the 15 Minutes of Flame channel over on Rumble. And if you're interested in going down the palm gun rabbit hole, I will point you to Jeff Rentz, Rentz.com. He has an entire stack of links connected to the palm gun. And for me, the thing that really sealed it with the palm gun is the fact that the guy with the palm gun quickly leaps over the barricade and then is part of the team that takes Charlie Kirk and his body to an SUV. Now, why did they have an SUV and not an ambulance? This is the big question. Why was there no ambulance at the event? Now, when you think of all that, and put it together, it seems like somebody didn't want to have anybody on scene that could provide, number one, any kind of trauma response. Number two, they wanted to make sure they finished the job. So I'm checking that box. I am now on the Charlie Kirk is gone side. And even if there was some kind of a squib, he's gone. He's not coming back. He's historically part of the departed. And everything that's moving forward from this point now is about that. If you go and look at the day, 9/10, and somebody pointed this out to me, that when Charlie Kirk was actually killed, it was 9/11 in Japan. And I know it sounds a little corny, like, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere if you want to drink, right? But it's true. There was a part of the world that was experiencing 9/11. So they managed to get the shot in, the eclipse, like they got the shot in, midpoint between the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. So it's in the midpoint. And they managed to get it on 9/11, which I believe, even though I was in a bit of a flame war with another astrologer who I think is dangerous. Because he's an authority. And what we have to do, no, he's authoritarian. There's a difference between being an authority and authoritarian. Anybody who's worth their weight is able to reconsider their position without having to have their ego threatened. And we all go through this. I go through it, right? Like, I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been podcasting since 2010. My first guest was C. Ellis Taylor, who I think is one of the great decoders that nobody has ever really spent any time with. When I found Ellis, he was working on something called the Mega Ritual as it related to the 2012 Olympics. He was my very first guest. And Ellis, if you're out there, I love you, and I hope you're doing well. My second guest was Jay White. And Jay, this is back in 2010. And Jay and I got into a lot of stuff. It was a great, great, great podcast. We really got into Stanley Kubrick, the moon stuff. Like, we went deep. And I knew, and Jay and I have kind of gone in different directions for various reasons that I don't want to get into. But I still respect Jay. And Jay's an OG, and he's been around a long time, and he's done some incredible work. And I have this really interesting synchronicity that not a lot of people know about with Jay. And the second show I did with Jay was about the Batman movie. And it was the first Batman movie, The Dark Knight Rises, right? Or The Dark Knight. And Jay had a choice of going to see the movie at the theater in Aurora, where, again, the shooting supposedly took place, or do the show. Jay did the show. So by doing the show, he actually avoided being at the theater that night when the shooting occurred. So this is how long I've been doing this. And when I started, there were a handful of people who were very serious about the decodes. Christopher Knowles was doing this. Christopher Knowles was talking about When Heroes Wore Spandex, which was, I believe, his first book, getting into the symbolism of comic books, comic book heroes. So Chris has been doing this for a long time. This is, and then you have the real OGs, like Jim Mars, Tex Mars, the original Jim Stone, the Gemstone Files, not the Jim Stone that lives in Mexico, who came along later. These are the people that were in the decode space. And along the way, you have a number of other people start to come up, right? Now it is a cottage industry. And there are a lot of people out there, many of whom the names you don't know because they're on TikTok or they're doing things on Twitter or they're on Kick. And some of these people are really, really good. They're young. I'm not a big fan of gematria because I think gematria is kind of like low-hanging fruit. When you like reverse ordinal something, it's almost like you're trying to fit it in your box. So I'm a little more selective about the gematria stuff. So if I wanted to, I could look around and say, well, gee, look at all these other people. I was doing this. Ian Carroll comes to mind. And I'm not here to do a bitch session. What I'm here is to say good. I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad there's more people. I'm glad, I'm happy that we have a team. And the team is growing. It's getting bigger. The voices are getting louder. I mean, for crying out loud, we've got Candace Owens, who's kind of in some choppy water right now. So when I say this, it's not to demean anybody else that's doing the work. I welcome it. We need more. And once we reach a critical mass and people understand that the rug is being pulled out from us, and we're able to have all these different disciplines, whether it's numerology, gematria, astrology, understanding predictive programming, pattern recognition, it's all part of the sauce. And I say great, as long as your work is quality and it's open for discussion and debate, because we all have something to learn. Like, that's what I'm getting to. We all have something. None of us have all the answers. So my pet peeve is people who don't, and I've had to go through this. I've had to say, shit, that's some major fucking work this person is doing. And so hopefully what it does is it pushes us and makes us better versus doubling down and pushing back, right? I'm not interested in that. We don't grow that way. And last week, I think it was on the Sunday night show, I can be really hard on David Nino Rodriguez. And I said something on his feed. And I came back on Sunday night and I actually apologized to him because he said something that was right and I was wrong. And I'm not too big to admit that I was wrong. And somebody else who I think has his heart in the right place was right about it. So I follow David on Twitter. And today, David followed me back. And I've been posting on his thread for a long time. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. So, all right, cool. He's following me back. This other, I'm just going to call him a clown. I blocked him. And that's how life is, right? That's how life works. You say goodbye to something or somebody that is like, I'm sorry, just dead weight. And having to go through that feed and either argue or correct. And I may not always see eye to eye with David. That's fine. But it's like now one door closes, another door opens. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. And I feel like in a lot of ways, there's a lesson here around the eclipse. Why? Because Virgo always wants to be right. There are two signs that are just absolutely impaled on the cross of being correct. It's Virgo and it's Sagittarius. Mutable signs. So one of the things we learn about with the eclipse in Virgo is that we don't always have to be right. That is a major deal. So the other side of the eclipse is going to be Pisces. Well, what's on the other side of the sun? At least right now, we'll look at it. It's Saturn. Saturn, the judgment. And at times, who are we to judge? Other times, judgment is crucial. And if you don't make the right judgment, it can be fatal. And maybe this is what was going on in Charlie Kirk's life. Charlie Kirk was judged. It was as if the Sanhedrin decided enough is enough. Oh, where did you hear that from? Sound familiar? Sound like maybe one of those crazy Illuminati cards? So we are in a time of judgment. And it all starts with right here and right there. So this eclipse, and it's just getting cooking. One of the things that it has the power to do is to take us off the cross of being right. And that can lift a huge burden off of us. And when some people are wrong, what do? They double down, they triple down, and it's not only embarrassing, but it's an abomination to the truth. Virgo teaches us about humility, ultimately, right? It teaches us about humility. And being a Virgo, barely, and by the way, some of you may or may not know this, but I was actually born on an eclipse. In fact, I was born on this eclipse by one day. So my mother went into labor when the eclipse was happening. And by the time that it was all said and done, right, the moon had slightly shifted position, went into the sign of Libra, still in the eclipse wave. So I was born on an eclipse. And I've had to live with being born on an eclipse. And somehow life seems either fated or destined. And I've always felt that, and you guys have heard me before, that at times I'm not a 12th house sun person. My sun, in fact, is in the 10th house. So I should be seen. But being born on an eclipse, it means that my identity is occulted. But I'm not always seen. Oh, who's this guy? I've never heard of him. Yeah, I've only been doing this for going on 15 years now, right? Oh, wow. Where's this guy been? So I'm very familiar with eclipse energy. It's going to be interesting. That's all I can say. But we're here to get into it and talk about it, try and go as deeply as we can. We'll look at where the eclipse is going to be. We're going to check out the United States chart. We're going to go sign by sign. And one of the things that people have not really taken into account is where this eclipse is taking place. And it's taking place right over Antarctica. So that's why we have the thumbnail today. The eclipse is peeking its head over the ice wall. What are we going to learn about Antarctica? What's going to come out? Because Antarctica has been occulted from us for a very long time. And I'm in this place now. It's a weird place. So I just want to talk about it a little bit. Before the flood, I started to look. You guys know the story. For those that are new here, by the way, if you're new, welcome. I started to look for new places to live. And the place that I was looking at was El Paso, which happens to be where David Nino Rodriguez lives. By chance. And I don't know why, but I was just like, man, I'm kind of drawn to this place. It's a border town. I like border towns. I think they're interesting. I like borders. I like cusps where things become intermingled. But I also realized that El Paso is 5,000 feet up and is dry. And the Wednesday before the eclipse, I came out of the gym, and again, I'll share the story. And I looked at the sky, and there was something really dark and foreboding about the sky. And I got on the phone with Joan, and I said, "There's something wrong. There's something wrong here. The sky is really dark. It's really foreboding. Something ominous is in the air. Something big is going to happen." That was on Wednesday. That wasn't Virgo, right? That was a sense. That's more Piscean. You're trying to read the particles in the atmosphere. But I wasn't just reading them, I was feeling them, right? And then lo and behold, 2 days later, boom, we get the flood. And everything that's happened since then, it's been like a flood of events. One after the other, after the other, after the other. So the flood in and of itself was a major event. Like we were going, and by the way, where did it take place? In Kerrville. Ground zero for both of the eclipses from 2023 to 2024. Earlier in the week, 2 weeks ago, for whatever reason, I started to, this is how this works. And I know for some of you people out there, it's the same way. And this is why I'm sharing this story. Because we're living in a time of peak sensitivity. It feels like the other side really wants to connect with us in a profound way, in a way that maybe we have not been able to connect with at a mass level before. So I haven't told this story yet, but I'm going to tell you this story. About 2 weeks ago, for whatever reason, I started to get really interested in Star Trek again. Not the movies, but the first series. Not anything else except the first series. The 3 episodes, right? You know the players. And I was on YouTube, and it's very limited because Peacock now owns the rights to all those Star Trek episodes. So I went out and I bought the box set of the first 3 series. Why did I do that? I don't know at the time. It was just something that I was really drawn to. And on Sunday night, on the Sunday night show, I brought up James T. Kirk, who is the commander of the Starship Enterprise. And I thought, well, this is interesting because he shares the same last name as Charlie Kirk. And if you look at Captain James T. Kirk, right, I believe it's the same initials as Charlie Kirk's full name, even though they share different first names. If you put Captain as a C, it was Charlie Kirk's full name. Okay. So his middle name is James. He shares the same first name as James Kirk. And if you use the C for captain or commander, James Kirk, and you use Charlie Kirk's initials, they're the same, CJK. And what does James Kirk do? He travels to different universes. And what does Charlie Kirk, what did he do? He traveled to universities. And Tipping Point USA is kind of like, or Turning Point USA, you should call it Tipping Point now. Turning Point USA, in many ways, is like the Federation. And Charlie Kirk had that kind of commander vibe, right? Generally considered a man of integrity and honor, from what we know of Charlie Kirk. And it was almost as if, and I know this sounds bizarre, but it was almost as if the universe was tugging at me, right? And if I was paying enough attention, I could have lined up this James T. Kirk with Charlie James Kirk, and we could have been talking about something before this happened. And I'm not saying that I could have prevented it, but there was something there. And I feel like what's happening now is we're in this tug of war between Virgo, which is logic, who is Mr. Spock, by the way. Spock is a Vulcan, right? And he's the ultimate Virgo. And Kirk is always kind of operating on his hunches, right? When he bluffed the Romulans, or he bluffed the Klingons, he's doing something that's not logical. He's doing something that's out of the pattern. But if you go deep enough, there is a pattern, like that Aeolian Web episode of Star Trek. And then I think about Nicolas Cage in the movie Knowing, which is directed by the same director who directed Dark City. If you don't know about Knowing, Nicolas Cage starts to have these premonitions. He goes into these deep decodes about where things are going on in this world. And I feel like that this is sort of the bedstone, or the we'll call this the flame. We'll call this the flame of the eclipse. And it's about this interpenetration of, we'll call it spirit or gnosis, knowledge. But knowledge in a sense that there's something greater that wants to communicate directly with us. And it's getting stronger. And what we're seeing with this whole Charlie Kirk thing is a derailment of that. And now we're being forced to co-sign on the company line. And everything is happening rapidly, extremely fast. Oh, I got a call here. Hold on a second. Normally I wouldn't take this. Hey, what's up? Oh, that was probably Uranus calling you, or Uranus. It's a butt dial. But you called at a very interesting time. I'm doing my show, but I'll call you back. All right, see you. I don't often get calls. I had to get the call from that guy. Anyway, I'm starting this off by sharing with you my experience, that if I had been paying more attention and following through, and I have a lot going on, like a lot of you do, clients and connections and my own personal life, and what's going on health-wise for me, that this is the message. One of the messages of this eclipse is to pay attention. Yeah, details matter, logic counts, but it's what's underneath everything that is trying to connect with us. And the people who have socially engineered this world and continue to do so are going to go balls to the wall to make sure that this does not happen. So I'm not trying to shine a light on, hey, you were kind of onto something. And I was. But so are a lot of you. And what we're doing now is we're being completely thrown off track. And now we're in this debate, this war about who has the right to say something or not, and turning us against one another. We know it's this whole divide and conquer bullshit that keeps us at each other's throats. But this eclipse, even with all the hard aspects, and there's a lot of hard aspects, is shaking us up so that the awakening, not just awakening to what's going on in the world, but what's going on with you at a much deeper level. This is the message of the eclipse. And to pay attention closely to your intuition, your hunches, your dreams, because the blending of the worlds is going to become more and more visible. And what the powers that be or were, or whatever you want to call them, social engineers, the cabal, whatever you want to call them, it's their job to confuse us, to lead us astray collectively and individually. And I'm here to tell you to stick by, well, I guess I can say stick by your guns, but that might set off a red flag or a trigger somewhere. But I'm here to tell you that in many cases, you're not wrong. You just may be slightly ahead of the curve. Virgo is really good for fact checking and making sure that whatever it is that you're feeling or experiencing pans out. But there are times where we're not panning out. There are times where you're just going to have to go with what you know, in spite of what the rest of the world tells you. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of an imitation of Christ. That you may be crucified for what you believe or feel. If not by society at large, perhaps members of your own family, whatever. But at the end of the day, you have to have the courage of your conviction. And your conviction is the thing that you are living with inside of you. And this is what they fear the most. And it's not just the social engineers, it's the Sanhedrin. And what I mean by the Sanhedrin, I'm not talking about a group of judges who put Christ to death. The Sanhedrin are the judges of any religion. Right? They're the judges of Christianity or the judges of Islam. Or they could be Chabad Lubavitch. Right? We live amongst the Sanhedrin, and the Sanhedrin has interpenetrated all of these different faiths. And they're the ones that have the last say. They're the ones that interpret the signs. They're the ones that interpret the scripture. They're the ones that interpret the dream. And I'm here to tell you, you're the ones. You are the ones. We are the ones. It's been an interesting time, a lot of interesting lessons, and I'm still going through them. I got a phone call today. First thing that happened early this morning. And I'll share the phone call with you, and then we'll get into chat, and I'll say, we'll do a little meet and greet. I'll say hello. Oh, man. Somebody who you may know, some of you may be familiar, W.C. Ray. I've been wondering where he's been. Not in chat. He and I text each other almost on a daily basis. We've had calls. Robin, lovely man. About 3 months ago, I texted him. I said, hey, does anybody in your family know my number? please share my number with somebody in your family, because if something ever happens to you, I need to know. I want to know. And so I texted him last week and I said, hey, are you okay? You know, a lot of things go through your head when you don't hear from somebody. Are they pissed off at me? Did I say something wrong? And he and I have disagreed on a lot of stuff. We always come back. We talk, and our phone conversations are great. He's the epitome of being a Southern gentleman. He shared with me today that he was in an explosion. I don't know how. I don't know why. I didn't get in the weeds. But it was so bad that he had to run out of his house into the street. He was doing a Richard Pryor imitation. He was literally on fire. And he's been in extended care for the last 3 months. And I was the second phone call that he made to basically say, I'm here. He died officially 3 times. He says, I was there, man. I was on the other side. I saw what it's like. Saw my relatives, saw everything. And now he has to work back and learn how to do everything all over again. So if some of you know who he is, and say a prayer for him, because we almost lost him. And I'm sharing the story with you because it's yet another sense of, I know something's up. Even before it happened, right? Like, somebody needs to have my number. Pay attention. Pay attention to these things. It is the small stuff. The stuff that you think doesn't matter, it matters. Not just for other people, but for you. And when we live in a world of distraction and confusion and diffusion, it takes us away from what's really, really important. And that's a big part of this eclipse, right? Pisces is the spirit, Virgo is the hands. And the two of them work in synchrony with one another. So whatever kind of bad feelings or ill wind that may be upon us with this eclipse, I want you to know that the functionality of this eclipse is to bring us closer to God and God inside of us. And we're not here to debate what that is. We're here to accept it because you're going to have your own experience with it, whatever it is. And you don't have to go to church in order to be Christ-like. And when we think of Christ, we think of Jesus, we think of Sananda. What do we think of? We think of somebody who is connected to source, who is a healer, a magician, a teacher, a vessel of compassion, wisdom, knowledge, taking away all of the Cecil B. DeMille kind of pageantry, imagery, the fast foodification of Christianity or Catholicism, because they're kind of different. At the end of the day, what's it about? It's about how are you living with it. That was the message all along. That was the story all along. That was the example of the life all along. And the crucifixion is what you have to do at times to go through this world. We went through COVID, and COVID was terrible. But at the same time, what it did is it challenged the courage of your conviction. And for many people, almost everybody that's listening to this broadcast, it was a test. Could you get through this time where people were castigating you, putting you on a cross, whether it was your own family, whether it was your job, whether it was your neighbors? That was a test. And that was the first part of this test. And it was all about what's coming. And for many of you, you passed the test. You lived with the courage of your conviction. Congratulations. And for some of you, it came at a great price. But what was the option? Well, we're seeing what the option looks like. And quite frankly, it's not great. We'll get into that with the eclipse when I break that down a bit more. So I'm just starting this off today as a reminder to pay attention, to listen, and to not get caught up in the distractions, because they're going to start to become hot and heavy, and we are in a battle unlike any other battle we've ever seen on this plane of existence. It is the battle for truth and life versus illusions and lies, death and extermination. It's that serious. And it all starts with you, and it all starts with your spirit. And what I know about many of you is that a lot of your circumstances are challenging and trying. You know, when I started off being an astrologer and going down this path, I had a friend tell me, probably 6 or 7, about 5 years ago. You know, she said, if you were more liberal and progressive, you'd be a lot richer as an astrologer. You know, she's not wrong. But I never got into this to become rich. And astrology is really big right now. It is really big. And all these other astrologers are coming into the field, right? They're good. Hats off. God bless you. If you're a truth teller, we need as many as we can get, right? So I applaud you for that. But I never got into this to be rich. As a result of that, a lot of people who listen, jump on the show, their circumstances are not, as they used to say back in the day, fat, P-H-A-T. So a lot of the people that I work with, talk with, deal with, they can barely afford a reading. That doesn't mean all of you can. Some of you can and have, and I appreciate that. But that's not what it's about, right? What this is about is it's really about this idea of love and compassion and truth. And those things don't always turn you into a mogul. And in fact, they can actually be a hindrance and get in the way of it, because then you get hooked on it. And I know David is controversial, and some people have gotten off the David train. Some people think that David bashes Christians too much. I will always respect David for taking a stand on COVID, because he lost a lot of people. Right? David made a conscious choice that he was going to go down this path. And David could have gone with the COVID narrative. He could have couched it. He could have dressed it up. He didn't do it. And he took a big hit. David does well. Don't get me wrong. David does fine. But if he had played the game like, I don't know, some other astrologer who might be might have the initial CB and was forcing people essentially to get the jab, or some of these astrology conferences, which made you bring your COVID test before you're able to go to the conference. This is where we have a fork in the road, right? So clearly, I'm not saying that you have to be poor. Being poor sucks. I don't wish it on anybody. But if I had to choose between the two, I'd rather be rich in spirit and poor in the world. Can you have both? Sure. Why not? But you're going to be tested along the way. All right, let's see who's here. Let me get into some of the comments. We'll go from the jump. Okay. We got DJMC, Janine. What's going on? Glemma. Hi, Glemma. Brandy's here. Christine's here. Hi, Christine. Stephen, the Piscetarian. That's my new nickname for him. Stephen, by the way, don't give up the live streams. Keep going. Keep doing your thing. Just tighten your game up a little bit. Keep going. Keep doing it. I support you. Bo. Oh, look, it's another eclipse. I can't see which. Well, I think we're all waiting in bated breath and anticipation. It's already here. There's Ratchet Boo. What's up, Ratchet Boo? Yeah, look, I have things going on in my personal life sometimes. And I'm not going to get into why I was late, but it was something of importance. Let's put it that way. Very intense energy. I agree. I agree totally. We got Southwest Florida real estate with Lewis Walton. Are you worried about the energies of Sunday with Memorial Day being held that day? No. No, I'm not. And if I was, what good would it do? Right? What good would it do? This whole thing is an abomination. It's a total abomination. And I will stand on that. And I refuse to be sucked in to the fear wormhole around what might happen. Like a bomb, or it's already, look, we're going to be living through an accelerated period where things are going to happen really, really quickly. You know, last Friday, I had the great pleasure of having Bruce McDonald on the show. And one of the things that really connected me with Bruce is when I asked him about the next 3 years. What do you think? What do you think's coming? He says, I think it's going to be hell. And he's right. We're going to be living through a period over the next 3 years where if you are not connected to God within, we'll call it the spirit, you're going to get lost. You're going to get sucked up, and you will be in the distraction wormhole. So my advice has been and still is to not get sucked up. And if you stay close and cultivate your relationship to the spirit, which is Pisces, the other side of the eclipse, in learning how to be your own judge, right? Your own arbiter of what's real in this world or not. For you, fact checking through the process of Virgo, you will get lost. You will get lost. And there are a lot of fake fucking Christians out there. And a lot of them have nested around Donald Trump and are giving him poor advice. Now, whether or not Trump's a whole other topic of conversation. I don't want to get lost in Trump right now. But he's got the wrong people around him. And a lot of these ministers, people like Greg Locke, even Susie Wiles, who's a Christian, theoretically, what do they believe in? They believe in the end times fairy tale. And they have very strong connections with the original Sanhedrin. I'll be talking more about this tomorrow on Locals. So a lot of your questions, and we can air it out over on Locals tomorrow. Thank you, Tom. Cosmic K123. What's up? Carly Bush. I'm sick to my stomach and exhausted. A lot of us are. Totally agree. Go fix you a proper coffee. I've had that already. I only had booze to my drinks. That's not the kind of spirit we're talking about. Steve's here. What's up, Steve? Cato. September has been insane. Absolutely. Christine Moe, same here. They killed him. I'm on board. He's gone. And guess what? Nobody's talking about, and he jumps over, right? Nobody's talking about that. Why isn't Kash Patel, who's an embarrassment at this point? I don't know what's going on with that guy. Mind controlled. I don't know what's extorted. I don't know what's going on with him. That's where you should be looking, not this accelerationist patsy. Suffering, I am not. Good. Good. That's what you need to do. We need other examples of people who are robustly living their lives and demonstrating to other people that we can still have an experience during this time that is apart from what the pinball machine of reality. He's not sitting with Elvis having drinks. No, he's not. Let's see. What else do we have here? Everyone that was carried his body was destroying the evidence. They were all part of his team. How'd you like to have those guys on your team? What does that tell you? Be very discerning about who's on your team. The masses are lost. The masses are lost, but there are people who still have a crack in the void. And that's what we're here to do. At least that's what I'm here to do. Is to help people make it through that crack in the void. Great question. Questions that aren't being answered. Ambulances are everywhere. They're at fucking high school football games. I remember when my son graduated from high school, there was an ambulance in the parking lot. Yep, rise above the chaos. I think that's prime directive number one. Why was the police presence so low? Another really good question. Was it 9/11 in Israel by that time? No, it was not. Because when you cross the timeline, international timeline, it's the next day. Yeah, don't believe the hype. His security team should have been renamed the insecurity team. No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. The idea here, right? What did Jesus say? To live in this world, be not of it, to be wise like serpents. I know. Astrology is a tool that can help us discern the truth if you're paying attention. I love it. You guys can hash it out in chat. What else? An ambulance wouldn't have saved him. We don't know that. All they had to do was stop the wound from bleeding. You think that they did that inside that SUV? Let's see. Oh, David DeLeo came. The conspiracy clearly took place. A public assassination was witnessed. Shaming those examining the evidence isn't a healthy point of view. I have to agree with Christine. Not to pick sides here, but I'm in that camp. In the Gen Z world, they lost a leader, like we in Gen X or Boomer, when Princess Diana's transition. I'm in a similar nature, yet it feels more powerful in this generation. Charlie Kirk, they not only lost Charlie Kirk, I'll tell you who else they lost. They lost Nick Fuentes. Nick is gone. He's gone. And my feeling about Nick Fuentes is that they either had a conversation with him about it and said, you could be Kirked, or maybe that's what Fuentes was there to do all along. But he's gone. Nick Fuentes as a source can't be trusted. That's just my take. They're being pushed to implosion. I agree. I agree. Sagittarius can be too nonchalant to want to be right. A lot of times they are. That's the thing about Sagittarius. I'll piss you off, right? They'll come to some kind of conclusion, and it's the truth, but you'll say, well, where's your proof of work? Oh, I don't know. Yeah. And sometimes they'll be right? When Sagittarians tilt into self-righteousness, that's when they can be a bit problematic. Let's see, who else do we have here? The eclipse of my chart is activated in so many ways. You should try and have it on your sun, Bubba. Let's see. What else do we have here? I know, but I was born on an eclipse. I mean, this is. I've been living being with an eclipse my entire life. Has anyone looked at the perp's chart? It doesn't matter. The perp is not the perp. It's a waste of time. I don't mean to be blunt in Miss North's musings, but it's not worth our time. I mean, maybe if we find out that he's a patsy, it's worth looking at, but no. Good call, not moving to El Paso. I'm not sure about that, but thanks anyway. It was more a series of sequences, signs, whatever you call it. Let's see. No, it's not him. He's a patsy. He's a total patsy. And he'll get off, by the way. He'll either get off or he'll be institutionalized. He won't go to a prison. And then they'll disappear him. Or somebody will Harvey Oswald him. Those are the three outcomes for the patsy. Get off on a technicality, insanity, or he doesn't make it to trial. Empaths are being led to remove narcissistic people from their own lives. If they cannot, it's still happening because for the. I think we have to be careful with the term narcissistic. In some ways, we all have some degree of narcissism. I think it's all by degree. And if people are just extremely toxic, then yeah, you got to get rid of them. for sure. I don't know what to think of Erica Kirk. Her connections are too weird. Being part of the pageant, you don't find any pictures of Erica. Like if you go down the Erica Kirk path, you don't find any real connection to a family life or anything like that. And even with Charlie Kirk, we know that his father was an architect for Donald Trump. Erica Kirk worked for Donald Trump. She was in the pageant loop with Donald Trump. She wasn't just a contestant. She also helped screen people, future contestants. So the Trump connection with Kirk is real that we know of. But we still can't find any real background in Erica's parents, which is quite strange, to be honest with you. Yep, Charlie's middle name is James. Yep. Vanessa, hey, you caught me live. Thanks for being here. Let's see. What else do we have here? Tipping point. We can call it tipping point USA. Tipping point of what to what? We're on the front steps of fascism. Was Jimmy Kimmel an ass? Yeah. Was he not funny? No, not really. But I disagree with him being canceled. You may not agree with me, but I disagree with him being canceled. I watched it, and personally, I think he's being canceled. Personally, I think he was being canceled because of what he said about Trump and how Trump's answer to the question was strange and nonchalant. I have a theory about how they get to these people, which I'll share as I go through some of these comments. Saturn, Neptune conjunction in Aries, I've been talking about this for a very long time, that it is the combination of a type of fascistic Christianity that's not really based on the teachings of Christ. You can see it line up. It's more Hammurabi. It's more eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And maybe this is an overcorrection for allowing all this stuff to happen. But we're on the stoops of fascism. And I know that's a term that is thrown around, but I can even tell you when Trump brings people like Larry Ellison and Sam Altman and Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and brings them all into the White House to cooperate and corroborate with the state, that's fascism. That's when corporations and governments merge to become one. So I'm not just willy-nilly saying, oh, we're going to become fascists. No. There's a definition of fascism, and you're seeing it right before your very eyes. Palantir. It's fascism. I mean, normally what would happen is that the United States would run its own programs, right? You'd have McDonnell Douglas, or you'd have Rand, or one of these corporations that are deeply embedded in the military-industrial complex. But what Trump did when he had that dinner is he basically showed that this is the merging of the corporation and the state. And that, in its pithy definition, is fascism. He said the civil rights should never have happened, though. The Civil Rights Act is another rabbit hole and there are things that abrogated in some ways. The Civil Rights Act destroyed the Black community. If you want to know the truth, it destroyed the Black community because they were playing with the precipice of equality and equity. And out of the Civil Rights Act, you're also piling on the Great Society, the war on poverty, welfare, entitlements. Prior to 1970, the families in Black America that had both a mother and father were roughly in the high, mid to low 70% range. By the time we're done with the 70s and we're moving into the 80s, where we are now, that's probably somewhere below 50%. So you wiped out a quarter of the Black community and their ability to have two parents raise their offspring. And I managed an apartment building in Oakland for 4 years. And 90% of my tenants were Black. And they weren't wealthy, bougie, boule Blacks. These were people that were living on AFDC, single mothers. I saw it. I was on the front lines. And I was witness to the damage that a lot of this does, especially the single motherhood. Some of those single moms were great. And they were working like hell to provide for their kids and taking classes, and, you know, cutting hair on the side and getting AFDC. And I didn't care, right? They're not supposed to work if they get AFDC. So what? You're cutting hair on the side doing, I don't give a shit, right? You're just trying to provide for your kid and get to another apartment building in a better fucking neighborhood. Good for you. I applaud you. I saw the other side of it as well. And I saw baby mamas who should not have been baby mamas. And it's because the system had corrupted their own institution of family and marriage. Let's see. Privacy Antiscom. Scott Hello, incredible energy. Moon conjunct Venus and Regulus. Yeah. Being a free thinker is important. I'm with you. What else do we have here? Let's see. Let's go through some more comments. We'll get into nothing can stop what's happening. Q. Is that a Q-tip? No one gaslights a truther like another truther, ironically. It's an interesting statement. Let's see. Oh. This eclipse is ruining me, putting my little boy Sonny Jim down after 17 glorious years. Oh. Yeah, you know, I think this eclipse is going to be hard on pets. 2026 is not going to be a good year for pets. Be careful what you feed your pets, and do not get your pets vaccinated. And how much pressure do you get just to vaccinate your fucking cat or dog? Right? When they go there, are there shots up to date? I said, my cats are indoor cats. They don't need the shots. Thank you very much. Pay attention to your pets. Make sure they get good food, and do not vaccinate them. Why? Because I feel like we're going to have a massive pet die-off this year. Let's see. I was going to say that, but Barack Obama beat me to it, and I don't want to repeat a cliche like that with him. I can repeat. Kim Harvey. Hi, Kim. You know, I love this. The irony is we are the real elite. We just don't realize it yet. We are the soul. That's what we are. We're the soul. We got a millennial checking in. Yeah, I mean, if you have the Uranus-Neptune conjunction in Capricorn, feeling something like fascism growing like a storm on the horizon, you'd be open and sensitive to that. Yeah, I'm just catching up here. Yeah, the guy was on fire. He's a Sagittarius. He was pulling a Richie Pryor. No, he was not. AG, he was not that. He's not that kind of guy. I don't know what was happening, and I didn't push for the details. I was just glad to hear his voice. He's our friend. Okay, what else? It's hard to lose pets, man. I'm telling you. Let's see what else we have here. This is, I think, a really important statement. Unbiased astrology takes you into truly uncomfortable territory. And most are not willing to do that. Yeah, I agree with that. Totally. We've been talking for 20 years. That's good. 20, by the way, is the AR. It is Meyer truth. Absolutely. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, David is really growing too with the birth of his second child. I'm seeing David really take on the role of being a father and moving into being somebody who is, I wouldn't call David an elder, but he's stepping into manhood I think in a really good way. So I tip my cap to David. David was huge. To me, he's still the biggest draw in astrology. David's a rock star. There you go, rich in spirit. Oh, the COVID narrative is going to come. I'm going to bring this up. The COVID narrative is going to start to come up this year. The numbers are going to be too overwhelming. That's another reason why we're being bum rushed with all of these tragedies. You're welcome, Stephen. You watch Stephen's streams, good. Continue to support him. Let's see. What else do we have here? Bruce was awesome. One of the best guests. I agree with you. I really enjoyed having him on. I just want to get to the end and we'll jump in. Bruce is a Cancer. He's a Cancer sun. He's got a Cancer Jupiter conjunction. Sun Jupiter conjunction in Cancer. I would agree with you unless they get demoralized. And Nick Fuentes is now becoming a demoralizer. There, I said it. Let's see. Hi, Crystal Shaman. Glad you're here. Thank you. Yeah, we'll have Bruce back on. Great guest. Just going through this. I'm going to throw a little dead wolf resistance up here. Read the book of Job with your eyes open for once. God playing poker with his brother, the devil. They're playing you who worship them. Wake the fuck up. Hi, Judy Taylor. No, all is not lost. No, it's not lost. We are in a major time where people we're cracking through, right? Like, you ever see those little tiny plants that somehow manage to pup through the asphalt? That's who we are. That's the metaphor. We're popping through the asphalt. All is not lost. But I got to tell you, though, it's not easy popping through the asphalt. Let's see what else. Let's see. Am I late to the show? No, you're fine. Intuitive Rays Tarot Oracle. Let's see. This is funny. Sedona Angel says Candace will always be by gal. She doesn't back down. So I think Sedona Angel might have meant to say my gal, but it's interesting because in a lot of ways, Candace Owens is the new Oprah. I don't know if you picked that up yet. And Gail is actually Oprah's gal. So I was actually gonna bring that up, but you kind of like brought it up for me. Thank you. Zionists are buying up TikTok, Paramount, possibly CNN. They're clamping down on information sources. This is true, Hucklebuck. So Barry Weiss has been put in charge of CBS News. Barry Weiss is an avowed Zionist. The new head of TikTok is an avowed Zionist. They hired an ex-IDF member to police TikTok. They're closing the exits here. That's what they're doing. Eclipse on your natal Pluto. Interesting. Nick is still a great comedian. He said if the Jews hadn't made Candace famous, she'd be stealing steaks at the grocery store. It's funny. But where Nick is gone, I'm starting to think maybe Candace and Tucker might have been onto something. That's just my personal thought. Try not to get carried away with yourself. No, I think it's a great idea. Let's see. What else we have here? This is here's an Occam's razor observation, and I think in this case, Occam is right, and so is Christine. Erica is mega Scorpio. Whoever Erica Kirk is, I'm not a fan. I'm just being honest. I agree with you. There's either free speech or no speech. Now, technically, Jimmy Kimmel did break an FCC law, but they're broken all the time. right? When he said a MAGA person did it, clearly this guy's not MAGA. But how many other institutions of the news have fallaciously lied to us, like all of 2020? That the so-called carjack was safe and effective. They should all have their licenses taken away. If that's the truth, if that's what we're looking at, if that's the bar, if that's the standard that they're going to hold Jimmy Kimmel to, then they should all have their licenses taken away because they lied to us every single fucking day. It doesn't matter if he laughed when Tucker got canceled. It doesn't matter. We've got to get over this little fucking niggly shit. We can't take these things personally, and it's tough. Handmaid's Tale. Think about how many young women did not get vaccinated. And how many did? Do you think the so-called elite want to have children with vaccinated women? I think so. It's a new form of virginity. What else do we have here? The passing of influencers will be a very powerful tool for them to move forward, possibly. What else do we have here? They've been doing it for, but it doesn't necessarily make it right. I agree with you. I agree with you. But again, right? I'll take a page out of Christianity. If people are truly of the spirit, they just turn the other cheek. And what happens? Generally, these people wind up falling on their face, getting canceled on their own accord. I understand it. I get it. I never took what they said about Republicans or conservatives personally, because they're all pretty much well-funded, walking, talking idiots. And most of them are terrified, by the way. Tom, when fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross. Sinclair Lewis. 100%. 100%. Old enough to be banned from, do you remember when Trump was banned from social media? Apparently so is Trump. Some of this feels a little personal. USA Inc. was formed 150 years ago. There's some truth to that, but when you see the players sitting at the table, you know what you're dealing with. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, I looked at that chart, and when the U.S. was incorporated, it is a Pisces chart. It's been a while since I've looked at that chart. There's a multitude of reasons why Charlie Kirk isn't here anymore. This is one of them. Christine, I feel like Christine is Nick Kurtz today. No, not Colonel Kurtz. You baseball aficionados might know Nick Kurtz as being the fucking hottest hitter in Major League Baseball right now. Let's see what else we have here. We're getting down towards the end, and then we'll jump in. Anything else here? Stick with your standards and not your tribe. Kind of like that, rock people. Is this weekend good for lake fishing? Why not? Why not? Yeah. The hate speech thing is such a trope. You know, and they float these things too, right? Speaking of Scorpio, Pam Bondi. Scorpio. By the way, Pam Bondi, Pam Bondi, 2 generations removed, is Jewish. Now, it may just be a coincidence, but I've looked at her family tree. Pam Bondi is also a Scientologist. And Scientology is that's a whole other topic. All right. That's true. Just like Stephen Colbert is weird, right? Because Colbert wasn't getting a lot of viewers, but they had a lot of sponsors. And so, yeah, maybe ABC used this as a way to do it. But if you look at what's happening, you have Stephen Colbert. He's gone. I don't like him. You know, the thing you have to do with these people is not watch them. You just don't have to watch them. He's gone. Kimmel's gone, although Kimmel is suing now. The View is on its way out. Trump won a $15 million lawsuit against CBS. And I think the whole Stephen Colbert thing is related to Trump's lawsuit. Just like when Fox was sued for the election stuff. That part of the deal was that Tucker Carlson had to go. And I called that before anybody else did. And Tucker alluded to that later on. So I think that when Trump won that lawsuit and that they edited the Kamala Harris video to make Harris look marginally competent, that altered how the election would be viewed. Now, I don't know the devil in the details, but I think it's quite interesting that Stephen Colbert, not long after Trump wins his suit, is canceled. I think it was a condition of the suit. I have nothing to prove that on, but that's my sense. Okay, there we go. We're up to speed with comments. Thank you. You don't all have to agree with me, and that's the beauty of what we do here. All right. I alluded to something earlier, and I'm going to break it out here. It's the first time I've ever really, it's just one of those things that popped in my brain, and we'll get back into the eclipse talk. And I think I figured out how they were able to influence these people. I think I figured it out. When I say these people, I'm talking about major world leaders. It has nothing to do with Epstein. Maybe a little, but it's not the whole enchilada, as they say about it. No, this goes back to the Bolshevik Revolution, and this goes back to the Romanov family. So I had this intuitive flash that when they shot the Romanovs, they filmed the whole thing. Because the Russians were very into film. At that time, they had one of the great filmmakers, Sergei Eisenstein. And when you look at the Bolshevik Revolution, there are no shortage of pictures and film of people like Stalin and Trotsky and Lenin. Plenty. There's plenty of archival footage. Now, do you think that they would waste an opportunity of killing the entire royal family and not having that on film? Oh, I think they do. And they show all of it, one by one. The agony, the terror, the fear. And at some point, who's ever in power and they have a family, they get a copy of that film. And they see what happened to the Romanovs. And at that point, it's real easy to get them to move and to do what they want. That's my theory. I have nothing to base it on except a deep hunch. And when I think about it and I play it over my head, and you see the agony, right? And what they would do is that they would kill Nicholas and Alexandra first, and then they would watch the children. And it wasn't just a hail of gunfire. It was slow, methodical, brutal, chilling. And they got it. They got it on video, not video, film, video. And that's what happens. It's the Romanov clip. I'm almost 100% convinced of this. 100%. Royal snuff. Royal snuff film. Absolutely. All right. Why don't we get into the eclipse? That's what the Bolsheviks do best. Absolutely. 100%. All right. Let's do some astrology. You would think that I would have this solar. Let's do this. Okay, and let me just double check time date here. Oh, wow. That was interesting. I love this time and date site. I don't know if you guys go here. It's a really, really good site. It has a lot of eclipse timing. Also, you can figure out the different times between different places. So these are the upcoming eclipses, right? So that's number one, partial solar eclipse. That's right here, right? And what does it do? Ice wall. The next one, the annular in February, it's another ice wall eclipse. So these eclipses are happening literally in Antarctica. Next two. Well, that's interesting in and of itself, right? But pay attention to 3, 5, 6, and 8. Okay? 3 here. That's in 2026, about a year from now. 6, which starts here, that's in 29. 5, which starts here, but they're all going through roughly the same area. You know what that is? That is North Africa, right? Right there. Here, you're dealing with what? Israel. Here, you're dealing with Saudi Arabia. That's Yemen, right here. So this area, right, the Fertile Crescent, the quote-unquote Holy Land, is going to have major eclipse energy. 3 is wild, right? This comes down from the North Pole and actually comes through Southern Europe and kind of tails off here. But 3, 5, and 8, which is in 2030, they all concress in this area. To me, that's really, really interesting. Super, super interesting. This eclipse down here, ice wall. Next one, ice wall. And I've been thinking, this is another kind of like flash, right? I've been thinking about black goo. I've been thinking about, for whatever reason, I'm starting to get these. It's almost like YouTube is a kind of a weird oracle that begins to build on the algorithm. And I'm starting to get a lot of stuff from the last Alien movie with the engineers and the black goo. And to me, AI feels a lot like black goo. And that it's just seeping into everything. Right? It's seeping into the workforce. It's seeping into people and their displacement of relationships with a jinn. I think AI is kind of like a jinn. And the jinn is out of the bottle, but it feels the way that it's moving. It's like black goo that's interpenetrating everything. And again, this is just me completely hunching this. But there's something about Antarctica. There's something about this area, especially with the eclipse. This dark sun, this partial solar, that feels very connected to this idea of black goo, this thing that's interpenetrating our psyche, our consciousness, how we talk, how we communicate, how we share information. And that's why I think the location of the eclipse is really important. Like, what is going to emerge from down here? What are we going to learn about this part of whatever realm we're living in? All right, so let me go back and get into the eclipses. So 12:29 p.m. Let me just make a quick adjustment here. Here we go. Okay. Now the actual eclipse is a thing, but we're dealing with also a number of malefics that day. So let's do this. All right, what do you know? You're playing nice. All right, we've got Mars Anaretic in Libra. And boy, have we seen Mars in Libra, the planet and the sign that is connected to social justice or injustice, and everything is flipped. Everything is inverted now. And that's part and parcel of Pluto and Aquarius, where things are upside down. And it's almost like reversing the current. So what's bizarre about the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing is that now you have the left wanting to boycott Disney, ESPN, and whatever else that they've got. Is it Hulu? Is that part of their package? And it's like, hey, go ahead, boycott away. We don't like them. They've been the locomotive that has been pulling the DEI train for the last 6-7 years. You want to put them on a keto, not chemo diet? Yeah, go ahead, starve them out. I mean, these. There's this woman named Joe. She's a big influencer on Twitter. She's a Democrat, progressive influencer. She's leading this boycott of ESPN and ABC and Disney and I think Hulu. It's like these people don't get it. They're doing the dirty work now for the right. There's your Mars and Libra, right? It's like, okay, you're going to take this social justice thing to its ultimate conclusion. And ultimately, you have no idea what you're doing. If you were really smart, what you would do is you would say, hey, we're going to stand by these entities and we're going to stand by Jimmy Kimmel. And we're going to demand that you do something else. But you're just starving out your opponent's kind of most hated entities. The only ones that can be more hated than them is CNN and MSNBC. These people don't, like, that's on the Piscean side of this eclipse. They're just going with the willy-nilly feeling. They're not like working this out logically at all. It's like, no. Those companies have actually been your allies. Now you're going to turn your allies. And then what's that going to do? The people on the right are going, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of these strange stories. Like, do you know why a flea does what it does? A flea does what it does because they have a little parasite that they're born with on their backs, a little tiny parasite. And it's the parasite that has taken over the mind of the flea. And the flea thinks it wants the blood. Well, it will feed itself, but it also feeds the parasite because the parasite lives on the flea. So right now, the left is the flea, and the right, the so-called right, is the parasite. And they're doing the work of the freaking parasite. It's the same thing with bugs that cross, what is it, the chaga mushroom, where they step across the chaga mushroom, they get the spore gets in them. For whatever reason, they start climbing up these fucking trees. And then from the inside, the spore begins to destroy them. At a certain point, they explode, but they explode like on these trees in the wind, so the spores can go everywhere. Like, that's how fucking smart the chaga mushroom is. I'm not sure why you'd want to take chaga mushrooms, by the way, knowing that story, but that's a different conversation. All right? Anyway, this is what the left is doing. They have been infected by a parasite and they don't even know it. Good luck. So Mars moves into Scorpio, and it'll be in Scorpio by the time we hit Sunday. And somebody asked, is that a good omen or a bad omen, having the Charlie Kirk memorial on Sunday? I don't think it's great. Not with Mars squaring Pluto. You want to talk, and I talked about this. This game is just getting going. Like, they're just kicking this thing off. And here's the problem now. The problem is most people don't know or won't be able to identify who the perp is. Because everybody will be performing their role. This Mars-Pluto square, there is bloodlust in the air. I can tell you that right now. This thing is just getting cooking. And it's happening, right? This is Sunday. So it's the day after, my bad. But it's right there. It's close to being square in Scorpio. Could something happen and be shut down? Maybe an anaretic Libra? Maybe. But we also have a Yod that day. And it's Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. Anything's possible. Anything is possible. To what end and what effect? More authoritarianism? That's where I think it's going. More authoritarianism. And at a certain point, people will be begging. They'll be begging for revenge. They'll be begging for some kind of really dark quid pro quo. And the square to Jupiter only makes it bigger. And Jupiter in Cancer has not been great so far. You know, it's supposed to amplify conservative values. That's what Jupiter in Cancer is supposed to do. Well, it sure is. But what we're seeing is the very dark side of conservative values. We certainly aren't seeing the Christian side of it, are we? I'm not even talking about to go to church and, you know, put a dollar or $5 in the alms basket or whatever they pass around. So the Mars square, in and of itself, problematic. The Yod, problematic. We got Venus going into detriment in Virgo, even though it's conjunct Regulus. What's that doing? Squaring Uranus. Anything can happen. I think there's potential here for some good healing with the Chiron trine. You know, one of the things we bitched about with Barack Obama, or at least I did, is that when all of the acceleration for Black Lives Matter started, and we could start with Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, all the way up to George Floyd, who, by the way, is born or shares the same birthday with Charlie Kirk, October 14th. Aren't we kind of experiencing the white version of Charlie Kirk? Or I'm sorry, the white version of George Floyd? What's also interesting about the two of them is they both have two first names as first and last name. George Floyd, Charlie. Those are both first names. And if you call Charlie Charles, it can become Kirk Charles or Charles Kirk or Floyd George or George Floyd. It's interesting. Now, the thing I bitched about with Obama is that Obama never once came out and said, We don't do this as a nation. We don't practice in retribution. You know, Obama is so full of shit. He came out in defense of Jimmy Kimmel. Cordyceps, thank you. It's not chaga, it's cordyceps. Thank you, John. I got my mushrooms mixed up. Cordyceps mushroom, not chaga. Chaga is the one that grows on the tree, I think. It's the cordyceps. Fucking evil. I mean, it's dastardly. Hey, let's get these bugs. And we'll drive these bugs mad so they have to climb these trees. Anyway, thank you, John. You can see I don't take cordyceps. I don't remember the name. Obama never once said, we don't act like this as a nation. You know who? One of the people, kind of an unsung hero, and I'll get back to Obama, because it's a contrast. When the Watts riots were happening, and shit was going nuts. James Brown, I think he came out, it might have been Atlanta, you can fact check this. James Brown came out in Atlanta and addressed the crowd and said, we don't do this. We don't riot. We don't burn property. And I think James Brown might have saved Atlanta. Did Barack Obama ever do that? No, they've got the right to protest. They have the right to protest. You know, this is what makes America great. When he did that, they're looking at each other going, yeah, let's go. And it got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And we know that Black Lives Matter met with Barack Obama at the White House many times. It's on the rolls. Black Lives Matter was taken into corporate America. Corporate America used Black Lives Matter. Took him into the White House. Obama had a responsibility to come out and say, we don't do this shit in America. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're aggrieved. We're all Americans. And I'm going to have town hall meetings across the country, and we're going to talk about it, but we're not going to riot about it. We're Americans. He never did that. Never. Obama was an accelerationist. What is Trump doing? He's doing the same thing that Obama did. Does it make it right? Does it correct that wrong? What Donald Trump needs to do is he needs to come out and say, we are one country. We're one country. We're one people. And, you know, my rhetoric at times can be heavy-handed. And I know in the past I haven't been easy on some of my critics. Because let's face it. Trump got kind of fucked over. Some of this, I think, was a humiliation ritual, but that's another story. But Trump could take the high road. And he could say, listen, I am willing to bury this hatchet right now. Because we got bigger and better things to do than to be at each other's throat. And I don't care if you're white or black or straight or gay. Hell, one of his best friends is fucking Bruce Jenner. Seriously. Christine Jenner, is that? No, that'd be his wife. Caitlyn. One of his best friends. This is what Trump needs to do. Is it going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. But this is what leadership does. Leadership crosses the line and says, we're going to get together here And we're going to make sure that, number one, we got free speech, left or right. And I may be maybe the worst offender of insulting speech. Some people might call me the Don Rickles of being a president. I can own that. But we need to find a way to come together here as a country and put this nonsense behind us. Have I heard that? Has anybody heard that? No, because it feels like a retribution party. We have this in conjunct with Pluto. We have this in conjunct with Saturn, Neptune, with Venus. Venus and Virgo, highly critical. Nobody's ever good enough. Nothing's ever good enough. Highly critical. And the most critical word can be taken the wrong way during this period. I'm telling you right now. A faint blessing of this is to figure out how to work together with this Venus-Mars sextile. This is where Trump could actually become presidential. How about that? I'm not sure it's possible. But here in the chart it is. Right? Chiron and Aries, wounding, violence, guns, knives, assassinations, blood. And it's trining Venus and Virgo. But he's not going to get that from his people around him. He won't. If he does, great. That'll be awesome. But I'm not sure he does. And he's got a lot of pride, whichever version of Trump it is, by the way. And there's multiples. And that goes back a long ways. I could play you a video of Dick Gregory saying it. Dick Gregory said it a long time ago. Other people have said it as well. So I'm not even sure which version of Trump will come out and make that speech. It needs to be made. It's been needed to be made for a very long time. You know, even George Bush, you're either with us or against us. Jesus Christ. Right? Bill Clinton, what a limp noodle that guy was. The best he could come up with, I didn't have sex with that woman. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. That was it. That's Bill Clinton's famous soundbite. Hell, I hate FDR, but at least he had the only thing to fear is fear itself. I mean, come on. Did we come up with a presidential fucking soundbite here? Somebody, please? Somebody not named Thomas Massey? That's what leadership does. It brings people together. That's why me personally, I'm not in favor of canceling Jimmy Kimmel. Just don't watch his fucking show. And his shtick and jive is just going to get old and tired, and ABC will cancel him. That's the way it is. Somebody's on a vendetta tour. Look at all these quincunx, these yods. Yod City. Yods are tough because you're trying to reconcile things that appear to be unreconcilable. And everybody's on a hair trigger. And that hair trigger is right there. Right there. And I think it really comes down to, if there's anything to take away from Charlie Kirk, and I'm not sure he was conscious of this. I do believe Charlie Kirk was starting to turn. Yeah, Turning Point USA was really going to turn in another direction. He turned down $150 million. He turned down an invitation to go to Israel. He began to ask difficult questions. The episode with him and Pat Bet-David got taken down. Pat Bet-David took it down, not YouTube. Did Pat Bet-David say that? No, he won't, but he did. He had an interview with Ben Shapiro where it's like, maybe we should start talking about this money. Charlie Kirk was seeing the light. I am convinced of that. And when you're in a position like that, unfortunately, you have to be ready, willing, and able to die because you are getting too close to the flame. Is Donald Trump willing to die for his country? I don't believe he is. And I'm not saying that people should go run around and try to shoot President Trump. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to have that kind of conviction. And I'm not sure he's there. What about his family? Did he see the Romanov film? It's part of the risk you take. When you become president of the United States, somebody who's supposed to be as smart as Trump, Mr. Art of the Deal, you know that at some point you're going to run into a situation where your family may be threatened. That's part of the fucking deal. And most presidents are willing to take the knee in order to make sure that that doesn't happen. And this is where wealth really gets in the, so where wealth becomes a problem. Because when Trump thinks about his family, he's not just thinking about their physical well-being. He's thinking about their generational wealth. That the entire family gets wiped out, right? And you can think, and you can see that whatever Trump showed up in England, Trump thinks of himself as royalty. You know, King Charles, again, whoever that guy is, was walking ahead of him. Trump touched him on the shoulder. You don't touch royalty unless they extend a hand and you go for the Masonic handshake. He touched King Charles. He did the same thing with Queen Elizabeth. Now, what happened to Queen Elizabeth not long after that? Exit stage left. Maybe that's what this is about. Maybe Charles is on the way out. But I saw that as Trump as, hey, I'm as important and as royal as you. And he even said as much. He thanked England and he thanked all of his friends. But hey, right now, we're the hottest country on the planet. Who says that? Somebody with Mars on their ascendant. Leo, that's who says that. We're the hottest country on the planet. We're the place, yeah, we're hot because we're boiling. The fucking frogs are boiling. That's why we're hot. We're the hottest country on the planet. It just seems so out of place. And maybe that's why people love Trump. Yeah, America, Team America. And look, I'm not saying that we can't have an infusion of self-esteem here as a country. By God, we need it. But the hottest country on the planet? What, hot because you filled your staff with all these the foxes from Fox? By the way, where the hell is Tulsi Gabbard? She pops up, says she's going to go arrest Obama, and then they put her back in her foxhole. Dan Bongino, hello, paging Dan Bongino. Where are these people? Got a grand trine here. This is the saving grace of the eclipse. Sun, Pluto, Uranus. Dig down, deep down, and you can experience profound fucking change. Do not be afraid of the eclipse. You're not going to be able to go outside and look at it unless you're, scheduled to have a little vacay down in this ice wall off the coast of Australia. And I'd say maybe you want to second thought that. There's power in this eclipse. Over here on the other side, we got Mercury and Libra, which is balance, and figuring out how to balance all of this. Down here, below the horizon, in the fourth house, which is traditional values, right? Home. America's a Cancer country. Cancer ruled fourth house. There's something that's erupting, something that wants to come out, something that needs to breathe. We'll call it an anaerobic function. Back in the old days, they used to do this thing called bloodletting. And people would look at bloodletting as, by today's medical standards, as being crude, primitive, and not based in science. You know what happens if you have high blood pressure and you give blood? Your blood pressure goes down for about 3 to 5 days. It returns to normal. What is giving blood? It is a modern day version of a bloodletting. The so-called ancients, or the older physicians / metaphysicians, might have been onto something. I believe they call it desanguination. You didn't drain the whole body, though, right? Now, there may have been some superstitious lore around it, like you were, they were praying over you, and the blood that was being released might have been a demon or whatever. But there was something to it. And I'm not saying that this needs to be a bloodletting by any stretch, but something needs to come out. Something needs to emerge. We have people in the chat that are very well versed in ayahuasca. Lots of ayahuasca ceremonies. What do you do in ayahuasca? You purge. You purge. The plant makes you puke your guts out. Because it's not just what's in your belly. You know why? Because if you're going into an ayahuasca ceremony, what do they tell you to do? They tell you to fast. Because you don't want any MAO inhibition that's going to fuck with what's going on with the ayahuasca. You don't want anything strange in there to mess with the inherent DMT that's in the ayahuasca that's going to interact with the DMT in your brain. Number one, it can diminish the effects of the ayahuasca. Number two, there can be effects that can be actually fatal. Okay? Now, that's the positive side of this. The negative side is a literal purge. Like the movies. This is a cautionary tale of the eclipse. These energies are building. You have one side that is extremely pissed, right? Because now they're the ones that are getting the boot. They don't like it. Quite frankly, I don't blame them. You have the other side that's saying, see, how does that feel? Oh, feels pretty good, doesn't it? Feels pretty good to be canceled, doesn't it? Feels pretty good to not be in power and have to deal with the bullshit that you people told us. I get it. I totally get it. But we're in this point now with this eclipse where the right purge could be a good thing. The wrong purge could be catastrophic. Long term, how do I see this? I think our system needs to be purged. I think we have been infected like a parasite, like the flea or the bug that mistakenly steps over the cordyceps mushroom. We have been taken over. And we need to purge that. And we're not going to be able to purge it if we're at each other's throats. What we'll get is we'll get a different version of the purge. We'll get a different version of the bloodletting. And we are close. I am telling you. We are very close to that. What we need to do is to purge the parasites. Yeah, we're all running around with parasites. I'm sure I've got more than my share, which I probably need to purge. I am a Virgo, and my intestines and my gut are kind of a big deal with how they work in general. But as a nation, even as a world, as a global community, we need a purge. We need that, and I've never done it before. I have taken peyote, but I didn't throw up. That was interesting. And I took a pretty good adult dose of it. In fact, I took it on my birthday. What birthday was it? My 36th birthday. Actually, it was my 36th birthday. I took it in the desert, Arizona. It was funny as hell. It was on my birthday. I drove out. It was when I was doing tarot readings. I spent a couple of months going across the South and Southwest doing tarot readings. And along the way, some people had given me some buttons. Some were dried, some were fresh, and I got these buttons. It was part of my shamanic journey. And I went out there, and I remember taking it in the morning, and I'd driven on this trail. And it was like I don't know, Sonora National Park or something. You know, you got the saguaro cactus and everything. And I thought, I'm pretty far enough off the trail that nobody's going to come here. But it was still, there was a bench there, and it was early morning, and I'm starting to like feel the magic, right? And it's starting to get hot. So I take my clothes off, and I have a shirt, button-up shirt, and I'm wearing, and it's near me, and I sit on a picnic table bench, and I start sitting cross-legged and meditating under the sun naked, and all of a sudden I hear, and I know a car is coming, and I'm like, maybe I should put my shirt over my private parts. But I'm not leaving. I'm not getting off this bench. And sure enough, this car arrives and they show up. And the people get out of the car and they're Russian. Why do I know? Because they get out and they start speaking Russian. They look at me and wave, and they walk around and I wave back. And they kind of look around because there's a canyon. You go hike and shit, but they weren't ready for that. And they get back in their car, and they drive away. Oh, that was interesting. Maybe more cars. I'll keep my shirt over my private parts. So then, this one was actually kind of pathetic. The next car that arrives is a minivan. And you ever see like those little cars at the circus, and they stop, and like all these clowns just keep getting out of the car? This minivan comes up, and the door slides open, and one after another, I believe these people were Chinese. If they weren't Chinese, they were Taiwanese or something. But again, they weren't really speaking English. And one after another, this minivan empties, and I'm watching them, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, when is the last person coming out of this fucking minivan? It was like the clown car, and I started laughing hysterically, and I had to kind of watch myself. There must have been at least 12 people inside the damn minivan, right? And I didn't think about it then, but it's like, oh, here come the Chinese. This is in 1996. There are about maybe 4 Russians, at least 12 Chinese coming out of this minivan. And I'm like, okay, it's time for me to get up. I'm going to walk to the camp. And looking back on it, it might have been a sign. Just saying. Bringing it back to this idea of the purge. Like, it's kind of tough for me because it is my birthday. And I am going out to dinner. I'm going to celebrate it. But maybe some of you out there may want to do something like fast this weekend. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll fast on Sunday just to be with you on that day. Okay? You may want to think about it. You may want to think about it. You may want to go out and do a sweat, cold plunge. These are things that most people do now. But I think the power of this on the eclipse is amplified to release the toxins, right? To release, maybe some of you will go out there and you'll do that ayahuasca experience, and you will literally purge. If you do, I guarantee you, you will have the biggest fucking purge of your entire life in this eclipse. You'll purge up lifetimes, past lives. You'll purge the pain and the anguish of your childhood. Because Pisces is the realm of the spirit. It's where we come from. Virgo is the realm of the earth. It's where we do things. It's where we get things done. It's where we find our vocation. Virgo in the 6th house is the house of Dharma. Right there. Right there. So we're all here to find our dharmic purpose. The thing that we do that allows us to serve others at our highest level and their highest level. And this is an eclipse that can reset that. So if you're stumbling and fumbling and trying to figure out what the hell you're here to do and what your purpose is, this is a very good weekend for that. Take it seriously. Shut off the TV. Turn down the volume. Go out in nature. Brandy said, is it a good time to go to a lake and fish? Sure. Absolutely. But if you're mindful, this eclipse can bring you tremendous release. Some of it may not be easy. We got a Pluto Chiron square. Pluto and Aquarius, we're going to be very different when it's all over. Now, what's interesting about Aquarius is that it's ruled by Uranus. And Uranus and Saturn, if you've taken my astrology class, which you can find on my website, Uranus and Saturn theoretically sit between Chiron. Chiron is the midpoint, the median between Uranus and Saturn. So we're always dealing with Uranus and Saturn through Chiron. It's the devil we don't know, or the devil we know, or the God we don't know, or the authority we know. Most people live their lives very Saturnian, extremely Saturnian. We're here, we're in the world, right? You learn a trade, you learn a skill, you get a job, that's all very Saturnian. You have a family, you have a child, right? You're a man, and you go out and you work and you provide for your family. You're a woman, you maybe work and you provide for your family in different ways, or maybe you don't work. Those are all Saturnian things. Right? You're on a tradition, maybe you join the right club, maybe you go to college, get a degree, all very Saturnian. But at some point, all those people that have gone down that path have to deal with Uranus. They got to. You have to. Now, me personally, I was Uranian all my life. And then at 44, I became a father, and so I gradually had to become more Saturnian. That was my lesson. I had a hell of a run of 52 years with Uranus on my ascendant. Now it's like, well, got to be a dad, got to show up. That's the way it goes. The reason I'm talking about this is because we have Pluto in Aquarius ruled by Uranus. And we have Pluto squaring Chiron, which is always in this dance between order and chaos. And this is going to put even more stress and tension on what we call the collective or the world. But will put stress and tension in your own life. Where are you in that dance? Are you doing things that you're doing that you're not really attuned to? And it's like, fuck it. I'm kind of over this. I'm kind of done with it. Or do you need to tighten the bolts and put some washers on before you tighten them? Only you know where you are in that continuum. This eclipse was part of everything, right? It's Pluto-Uranus square has been going on. But everything in this chart is magnified. What's interesting here is we have Pallas, the great pattern recognizer, right there. Right? Pallas is retrograde. By the way, Pluto, if I'm not mistaken, Pluto's retrograde, Pallas is retrograde. You want to know why people can't let go of this idea of what's happening with Charlie Kirk? It's because of Pallas and Pluto. We're going back and we're looking and we're re-examining. We're trying to find the fucking patterns here. And the way that the social engineers have rigged this thing is that we're going to give you half a dozen patterns to choose from. Have fun. And meanwhile, we'll throw some kerosene on the bonfire of the vanities. That's what we'll do. This is a heavy, heavy, heavy chart. Heavy chart. But don't be afraid of what's coming. Because it has tremendous power, tremendous potential for you to get down and to let go of these things that have kept you from being functional and efficient. The moon is at this intense place. Right? The moon is balsamic. And that in and of itself, I mean, at least it's mutable. And I think a lot of us, hell, I even get thrown into this camp. A lot of us at times feel like we have to be very careful about how we're perceived by others. Well, this is the last chance for gas right here. You got to let that one go. And maybe something along the lines of, I don't know. Let's say, for instance, let's say you have to get a job. Okay? It's really funny. I still get texts from the person who owned my cell phone. I've had this, not my cell phone, my number. I've had this number for going on 13 years. And I can tell you what she does. She does phone call customer service. I get all these customer service leads. We've seen your resume has come across our desk. I'm not your person. Erica. Isn't that funny? You owner of the phone, this woman, Erica. I've actually had text chats with people looking for Erica. One of them was coming to Austin, and I was messing around with them. And I said, well, she's not here. Oh, well, I was looking to hook up with her and find some interesting places. Well, here's a few interesting places. You like music, go here. You like food, go here. They wanted to meet up with me. I'm like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that, right? But I don't think that's going to work. Might have been a trap. Anyway, let's say you're Erica in theory. Well, YouTube just sent Erica a really sweet job offer to interface with YouTube users and content creators. Well, what if you were offered that job? Would you take it? If it paid your bills, would you take it? If you said to your friends, oh man, I just got offered this CS job with YouTube. YouTube's evil. Why would you want to work for YouTube? Well, hell, if it paid your bills and got you out of your morass and were you able to get current with things and stay off the street, YouTube's looking pretty fucking good at that point. This is what I'm talking about. Some of this can cut both ways. Or why would you want to quit that job? Why would you want to leave? It seems like a very good job. I'm not feeling it. I can't muster getting up in the morning and going there anymore. Well, if that was me, I wouldn't quit that job. People die for that job. People give their left arm for that job. This is what I'm talking about. That's Uranus and Saturn. And that's part of the purging effect of this eclipse. And we got to bring Chiron into the discussion. Why, again? In conjunct with the moon and the sun. Right there. If you want my headline about this eclipse, it's about breaking the program and purging. Be mindful. Do you want to live in a better world? First of all, it starts with you. Do you want to live in a better world? Do you want to live in a world where the water is cleaner, the air is cleaner, the food is greener, or golden, or more brown, the cows are happier, whatever your little slice of Eden is? Do you want to live in that kind of a world? Do you want to live in a world where we're not having to deal with these vipers who literally are constricting us, these parasitic vipers? Do you want to live in a world free of them? Take that into this eclipse. Be mindful. Be mindful. And be willing to experience whatever it is that you want out there in there as well. That's a tough one. And I'm looking at that eclipse. Boy, it's happening right on my sun. So, hey, when you do this, what do they say? 3 fingers are pointing back at you. Be mindful. Let the energy work for you. Go into it and ask to purge or have the things purged from your life that are no longer serving you, that are toxic. And then if you expand that to the rest of the world, If we all did that, this thing will happen. And the people that are poisoning us on a daily basis, whether through rhetoric, whether through crosstalk, whether through what's in our skies, our water, whatever they're putting in syringes, we want them gone. We want them gone. That is the return to Eden. Now, how it happens, I'm not attached to it. All I care about is my son and his generation, your children, their generation, the next generation after them. We have not had a fighting chance in this place for a very long time. Maybe ever. I don't know. I wasn't around Tartaria. Maybe. Do I think it's possible? Yeah, I do. I think we're there. I think we are there. We also got a Grand Cross here, which means we're at a crossroads. Mars, Pluto, Chiron, Jupiter. Got to have an opposition. Boom. Mars, Chiron. The only one we don't have an opposition with is Jupiter, Pluto. But that's about as close to a Grand Cross as you can get, with some heavy-duty oppositions. An anaretic moon in Virgo, right, at the 28th degree, which is the most volatile degree of the zodiac. It's there. Vesta is on the ascendant in Sagittarius. This is a long-term play. This is the light of the future illuminating back to us. Freedom, liberation, with responsibility and accountability. What is that, 322? Let's go into the Sabian symbols. Let's read 3 and 4. I feel like this is where I go to the Bible. In phase 243, Sagittarius 3, Dane Rudyard, this wasn't Dane Rudyard, this is his term. 2 men playing chess. What's the ascendant? 4. That makes sense. The transcendent ritualization of conflict, essential to sociocultural living, is the transmutation of man's natural aggressiveness under most conditions of existence. Many rituals, sports and games have no other basic aim. In chess, the complex types of energies, which in their togetherness constitute the human person, are symbolized by 6 kinds of pieces: king, queen, bishops, knights, rooks, and pawns. The struggle between light and darkness, the yang and yin force, the black and the white, or on the Masonic chessboard, is ritualized, ending in most cases with checkmating of the king, the ego, the conscious self. In a dualistic world, such a contest between polarized forces is omnipresent. The chess game trains man to be more objective, more careful, more aware of whole situations, and less impulsive and intent upon side issues. Oh, isn't that interesting? This 3rd stage symbol deals with conflict, but at the level of group culture and psychological symbolization. It brings the objective consciousness, the basic realities, the interpersonal interplay. That's an interesting symbol, but it doesn't stop there. We go to Sag 4, a little child learning to walk with the encouragement of his parents. That's beautiful. The natural assistance of superior powers during crises of growth. At an early stage in its development, every living organism must make an attempt to overcome the power of gravitation, or rather, to learn to use it in order to fulfill the purpose of its life. This implies passing through a critical stage of growth in freedom, potency, and individuality. Inasmuch as walking always symbolizes self-induced progress, in such a crisis, the individual is not left alone. Some more evolved power and intelligence watches, encourages, and gives examples to be followed. As usual, this fourth stage symbol in the 49th sequence gives a hint of technique that presents a picture of the conditions under which a resolution of conflict, which is the previous symbol, can be ensured, whether at the organic, the personal, or the superpersonal level of unfoldment. What is a little child learning to do? Get its legs under it. Where's the conflict? Conflict is standing upright, whatever this thing called gravity is. But there's encouragement, there's help. It's like there's a guiding hand, right? And who is that guiding hand in our lives? Well, most of us are adults. That guiding hand is the spiritual parent within us. You can call it God the Father, God the Mother. So this is a really interesting transition between these two symbols. We understand there's duality. We understand there's polarity. We understand that there's a game being played. And in chess, you have to be thoughtful. You have to think ahead. You have to understand who you're playing with or against. Right? At the end of the day, it's a ritual. It's also a game. It's a game that forces you to understand, number one, the rules. Number two, the rules beyond the rules. And once you do that, it's almost like a rebirth. When I see this, when I see phase 244, Sagittarius 4, it reminds me of the cosmic baby from 2001. Where does the cosmic baby emanate from? Jupiter. What is the ruling sign of Jupiter? Sagittarius. And these symbols are usually read as kind of a trigram. And so the 3 and the 4 resolve themselves in Sag 5, and Old Owl sits alone on the branch of a large tree, a poised and wise approach to existence based on a clear perception of unconscious factors in their operation. The owl has always been a symbol of wisdom, and its hooting call has evoked a rise to mysterious and hidden elements in life. The owl functions lucidly in the night aspect of existence. His eyes see what men normally fail to perceive. He represents that consciousness, which is active, where the processes of life normally escape the attention of the personal ego and its intellect. This is the last of 5 symbols in the 49th sequence. This suggests the possibility of developing a wisdom beyond tragedy, a peace and poise beyond conflict. One might speak here of translucidity. We have the conflict ritualized in the game of chess, but it's a ritualized conflict. I guess we can all identify with a certain piece of the chessboard at certain times in our life. We've all been each one of those pieces. It's okay to be a pawn. It's okay to be a young knight, taking daring leaps and bounds. The powerful rook, the battering ram. It has force in one direction, but only one direction. The bishop, coming at life at an angle. Right? The bishop has an angular relationship with life. The queen, omnidirectional, and then of course the king. Ironically, the most powerful piece, but still only moves at the same rate as the pawn. Isn't that interesting? The king and the pawn have more in common with each other than any other piece on the board. Many of you already know that. All right. I think we're wrapping it up here. 3 hours. Look at that. We got a 3 hour, actually, close to 3 hours. We got started at 12:30. All right, let me go through some comments and let's see what we got here. Yes, we discussed Jimmy Kimmel a long time ago. They destroyed. Where is this? I guess we're here. They destroyed most of my farm. I fight hard to pick up the pieces. I have a little piece of what I'm supposed to be good. Supposed to be good. Time's not forgotten. Someday I must be moving. We're all going to be moving on, Dead Wolf. We're all moving on at some point. My mother was a Pisces, although she had Jupiter in Aquarius. My mom tells me about her bunker in Belen. Wow. Underground. Wild. No one gets out of here alive. That's okay. She was my mother was more Aries than just about anything else. All right. That's it. Thanks for being here. I hope you got something meaningful out of it. You had to sit through my sermon at the beginning. We got around to some astrology. I'll be back on Locals tomorrow, and we'll have some more interactivity. And if you have questions to ask about the eclipse, we'll throw your chart up there and do all kinds of stuff. We'll probably go for about 2 hours over on Locals. And that'll be my contribution for this eclipse. And Godspeed. I haven't said this in a while. I'm going to say it today. Use your head in order to discern what's real and your heart to stay open what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Bye for now.